What is going on, guys? It is Adam, aka Marf, and we are back. Today we have a fun-filled show with the world falling apart and much, much more. We're going to talk about all of the current events that have happened and everything that I have covered this week we're going to touch on. So this is going to be a very important show. To follow this, I am going to be going over to Marfoogle News, and I'm going to update you if it is true or not if everyone is deploying in mass. Again, using our own channel, we were able to ask and verify the many TikTok videos out there. So stay tuned. After this, make sure to head over to our sister channel, Marfoogle News. All right, we'll be right back right after this. Nothing in this show should be considered legal, medical, or financial advice. The views of the callers can differ considerably and do not necessarily reflect my opinion, Dex's opinion, or anyone else who works with the show. You should always do your own research and consult with professionals. The internet is full of fake news, so please take everything with a grain of salt. If you have not already, it helps us out if you end up going through any of our affiliates, and it helps you out if you end up protecting yourself against cybercrime. NordVPN is one of the best and one of the easiest to use. If you do not have a virtual private network, it protects your IP address, which is your online identity, which actually connects to your real address and everything else. It also connects to you. If you know anything about how they are data logging and basically getting your profiles down, you can prevent that by having a VPN. Nord is, again, one of the easiest. Download it. It's like an on switch and off switch. All you have to do. Go to marfooglenews.com/VPN. Not only will you get a giant discount on this, but you will also be helping us. I appreciate your support, and I appreciate everyone that goes through any of our affiliates. Can't say thank you enough. I hope everybody is pumped. All right, what is going on, guys? It is Adam, aka Marf. This is Marfoogle News. Welcome back. So we have a ton to cover in a short amount of time. So if you're new here or found me during this last week of not doing my regular shows, this is going to be roughly about an hour and a half to 2 hour show. We're going to talk about all of the current events, and we're going to break it down and even give you a bibliography of every single article, tweet, video, picture, document that we're going to show you here. That way you have a source for every single thing I say. Now, I question every single article that we're going to be talking about because what mainstream has been saying for years, there are little hints and clues to what is going to happen next. So we are going to ask the questions and team up with our Foogle family and see which is true and which is not. So let's get into it, but I am going to introduce my co-host / internet brother, Dex James. What is going on and how are you doing today?
Well, hello, Adam, and hello, Foogle fam. I'm doing just fine.
So Dex does not have his normal mic. It broke, but he will be getting it very soon by the next show. He might sound a little garbled, but we're making do. It is our first show back since I left to do a side gig, so today's show is going to have a lot packed into it. But make sure to drop in the chat, say hello. If you don't normally chat, just even drop in and say hi and do a roll call. By the way, thank you everybody for being patient for the last week. I really appreciate everybody following almost every video that I put out. So thank you so much. I really do appreciate that. Thank you, Bobby Sue, Greg Martin, Drew O'Connor, and of course, Beer Juice, JJ George, Beggy Cox, Patuki, and everyone else that just popped in. And thank you. It looks like One Aunt B. Congratulations on your 21-month streak, and she was actually saying that to somebody else, so I've got to find out who that was. That's awesome. Thank you for sticking with us over on DLive. Sandra R, Vicky K, and Southern Cali. All right, we're going to get right into the news. It looks like top scientist admits space telescope image was actually a slice of chorizo. This isn't a joke. Well, I guess it could have been in the first place, but so the picture that went around did its rounds. I'll show you that here in a second, but it says a French scientist has apologized after tweeting a photo of a slice of chorizo, claiming it was an image of a distant star taken by the James Webb Telescope. It says Etienne Klein, a celebrated physicist and director at France's Alternative Energies and Atomic Energy Commission, shared the image of the spicy Spanish sausage on Twitter. So I'll just show you this. People were sharing this all over the place, and if you actually look at it carefully, it is a slice of meat. So it just kind of shows you. I mean, I can hear people on multiple sides here going, well, yes, of course it is, which is pretty funny. This is literally a slice of meat that went viral, and people were like, oh, look at the James Webb photo, which obviously people are easy to fool, especially when it's, something that no one's ever seen before, or the stuff that they're, supposedly showing us from across the galaxy. This could totally be possible. There's a planet of chorizo. I think of Spaceballs when I think of this story, but again, if you haven't seen that, then you're too young or just not cool. All right, and then, of course, Texas power grid facing test as 104-degree heat bakes the state. We have warned you. We have looked at this for years. We've seen the patterns. We've shown you how all of the different grids are now under stress. And as the heat goes up, no matter what is causing the heat or what is controlling or whatever, it basically is something that nobody's debating. It is getting extremely hot. And many people know that there's been rolling blackouts and grid down situations all over the country due to this heat. It can also go down due to cold. This is why we have, suggested to everybody to actually go and get yourself a generator, whether it be a gas generator or a solar generator like the energy that we have. Again, it says Texas electricity use may set another record as heat intensifies. Wind power will help state grid meet unprecedented demand. So what they're telling us is that there is a higher demand than ever before. It says an intensifying Texas heat is poised to test the power grid on Thursday, with demand seen topping 80 gigawatts for the first time. Just 1 gigawatts, I believe, can power a small village. Again, just I don't know how many homes, but I want to say it's in the thousands and thousands. It says ample winds twirling turbines are expected to bolster electricity supplies, reducing our threat of outages as homeowners and businesses crank up their AC across the second largest state. It says according to data from the Electric Reliability Council of Texas. Electricity use on the grid, serving more than 26 million customers, is expected to peak at more than 81.4 gigawatts on Thursday. I'm sure many people are thinking about, what's a gigawatt? Unfortunately, they are the things that are powering homes, and unfortunately, there are lots of evil things that could happen to those gigawatts. So be careful, be aware of your surroundings, and be aware of the weather. We're about to have another heat wave here. Again, Washington just got an advisory for several parts. In fact, eastern Washington, where some of my friends are, they are going to go through some really, really rough hot spots. I think they're above heat advisory, where they're into you're going to die. I think that's what the weather channel said. I may be paraphrasing. It may have you could, or you are. It was something like that. Kimbria, thank you, says, hey everyone, missed you all. And Yobi, hi y'all. How is the start? Let's see here. Let's see how is the start of the weekend for all? Well, hopefully good. Again, happy Friday to everybody that has been working all week hard. And I appreciate everybody for being patient for our popping out. And then Jammer, what's going on? Thank you for modding. And then Stacy Adams, I'm in Texas. It's been 115 for the past few days, and we finally got a somewhat good day. That's insane. Longtooth, what is happening? Jesus gives eternal life. What's good, fam? We've got Jada Mitchell, Mama Wolf, Wiz Jen, thank you so much, or WIS, and then Major, Scott from Oz, and Yabba Dabba. What is going on? And Rach Lime, James Smith, and Drew O'Connor, thank you guys for popping in. What do you, if you have, again, some sort of outage or a major blackout that they're not announcing on the news, will you please let us know? We are seeing rolling blackouts, which are forced turnoffs of the power, and they're not being put up on the news. Several happened in Ohio, in Michigan, in other places, and no one ever, it really was not reported except for in some cases in the tiny, tiny newspapers that are attached. So, Dex, I'm going to go over to you for a second. The President B officials plan to declare the monkey business a health emergency, and this is public. Remember, about 12 days ago or so, they called it a global event and an emergency, and now, or of global attention, and now they are saying this. What do you think about this, Dex?
Well, we've seen that they had rumored it about a week or two that this was going to come out from the administration, and now it's officially coming out that they're going to declare it a public health emergency. So, keep this on the radar as far as what that may mean for additional guidance and or things that they expect people to do. As this has been reported, it's sort of different ways you can contract this. We've heard that they have sometimes suggested it could be in the air from close proximity, but for the most part, it seems to only be affecting those that are super close to other people.
Well, one thing I've noticed is that they have many stories out, and you've probably seen these pop up in your feed, where it's somebody with these horrible things on their face, and they're essentially saying it's changed my life, and there's several of them. What I think is a little kind of crazy is that they're showing a ton of them. It's all different people, and it's basically the same story. It's basically showing their different sores and the thing that's on them. And the one thing I actually read a really great article, and I'll try to get it to the website. It was actually a really genius article, kind of putting the two narratives that are being put out about it, both from the same side, and how they actually conflict. And basically, there is no right answer, because they basically say that there's a vulnerable group that keeps getting this stuff. And they're vulnerable, and they're not doing enough to protect. At the same time, they don't want to direct it towards that same group. This writer was on, I believe, Substack. Most of the good journalists are. This was a genius article, and when you read it, it will literally punch you in the face with common sense, and it's hilarious. It's a funny article. So I will get that, and I will put it. I will get it over to the website. So again, make sure to go check out tonight's web only. It won't be on until a little bit after the live show. So, but yeah, very funny. But this is not funny. This is something that, in the future they could tell us, oh, it's mutated, whether it is or not. This could end up being a 2019 all over again. And that's no fun for anybody. Right now, there's other things that are getting bigger attention, but this should be paid attention to. And then Elon Musk predicts that the U.S. will have a mild recession for 18 months. Again, even just like last week, everybody was talking about how he slept with some dude's wife while they were still married. That I lost a lot of respect for him there. I know that he had like his little trio with, Johnny Depp's wife or something and somebody else. But then for it to happen again, just stuff like that. I don't get why people talk about his personal stuff. He comments, and then all of Twitter basically goes nuts. I do understand that, he has a lot of pull in the planet right now, because he is involved in almost every facet of our future. He's involved in space. He's involved underground. He's involved with our brains. He's also involved with our power. Our power grids are getting backups from this man. They are building, these huge Tesla batteries that back up whole grids. So it is a pretty serious thing as far as, what he ends up saying. So people are paying attention to, of course, if he's saying a recession, which many of us are like, okay, we're already in one. They're just afraid to call it that. Even a depression, as far as if you have seen what is going on all over the place, I mean, it's pretty crazy. So, I mean, look at, we're paying $10 for bread, right. $10 for gas a gallon. I mean, this is insanity. Go ahead.
And Adam, the one thing that, you've got to at least pay attention to is this guy does understand economics. I mean, he didn't get where he is without understanding how they work. And this was part of a presentation, I guess, to the shareholders for Tesla. So he has to make some sort of, statement about how the economics are going to help or hurt or help or adjust, what a Tesla has to do. But in addition to saying that it was 18 months for a recession, he also made a statement that says in his opinion, we have passed the peak of inflation. In other words, he's not making a prediction that inflation is going to go any higher. We've actually hit it, and he's saying that it should come back down, which is, I guess, on one hand, if you believe him, or at least think that he's got some decent insight, that that is a good sign, even though a recession isn't necessarily a good sign. But thinking that we were heading into doom, so to speak, and inflation is still out of control, that would be a bad thing, right? So for him to at least predict that he thinks inflation has already peaked and it's going to go down. Now, whether or not he's right, he's doesn't have a crystal ball, but he certainly has his hands on a lot more insight than most of us do.
Yeah, he has friends in high places, and he would let them know. So it depends if this was put out on purpose, or this meeting that he was doing to these shareholders, if it was meant to get out like this, or I mean, basically, if the man uses the bathroom at a rest stop, they glorify the rest stop. So again, I have nothing against Elon. People even accuse me of just being in love with the guy because I cover him so much, but at the same time, I think it's hard to argue that he's not going to be a part of all of our futures just as much as Mr. Gilly Bates, just as much as Bezos and everybody else. Think about Bezos. Bezos, everyone across the globe is getting these Amazon packages to their door. It's a very powerful company. It's something that it's a household name. Same with Elon. Elon is one of the most famous and richest people in the world. His personal things, like all this other stuff, that shouldn't even be out there. But because he is the richest, and he is, of course, one of the most famous people in the world, everybody's going to talk about him no matter what he does. I think we have much bigger problems as far as a conflict starting. And if it doesn't start soon, we are definitely going to be placed in a track, and it's only going towards one place. Military-industrial complex needs a conflict to provide, to be able to produce the amount of jets and planes and carriers and everything else. These guys are all tied in with all of the big corporations, the same corporations that you're going into the big box stores. Those are all the same people at the very top. It all has to do with military. So if it's not this one, we're going to have another conflict start somewhere else no matter what. We're just hoping it's not the big one. And now seeing everything that's been cut from Xi's country, even more. Dex, was I talking to you earlier today about the other things that they cut off, the other things that essentially they cut us from doing?
Yeah, we have a few of those things I think later, but yeah, they actually in retaliation have cut off connectivity as far as talking to our government around certain key specific areas that we work with them around, military and illegal substances and things like that. So yeah, kind of a big deal. Well,
either way, it's not looking good, and people want to say it's all a bunch of fear, but that's because they're afraid. We're looking at it responsibly and looking at ways to prepare and make it less of an impact on all of us and our families and everybody else. That's why if you are new here, this is the current events from a prepper standpoint, from my point of view. You may not agree with me, and I'm okay with that. As long as you're polite and give your thoughts, I have never closed my mind, ever. I am open-minded, and I do understand that there's so many different viewpoints, but also realize that you have been trained to hate other people. It is in every piece of media. It is in every far corners of the internet. People want to hate and divide and tear apart. And people that will even say that and will be cliche and say, oh, they just want to divide us, they'll still be the ones doing it. So I don't understand. We need to go back to 20 years ago, if you're old enough to remember, where you could talk about everything going on, especially in the White House and other places, and it wouldn't end with people punching each other out or pushing kids off of rides at Disneyland. It's pretty absurd. So before we talk about President B still has the cough, I do want to remind you guys, if you do want a solution to your power going out, go over to Energy. So this whole studio is run by a Flex 1500. In fact, I did it with one battery. I just got a second battery because I wanted more length as far as being able to take it out. But again, with one battery, I've been running a UPS or uninterrupted power supply for my studio with an Energy Flex 1500. This is a solar generator, so one, I can have it inside. Two, it does not need gas. There's no nauseous fumes, so you can actually have it right in your living room, or you can take it with you. This is completely portable. It doesn't take $10 a gallon gas. So again, it is an investment, though. This is a very extremely high quality generator. In fact, it is so coveted. Some people earlier this year were waiting 6 months for theirs to ship. Now that shipping window is smaller, and this is all because of resources that are now very coveted themselves, like lithium. This is why people should get these things sooner than later, because the same resources that go into building these, the chips, the lithium, everything else is not made here. So that's why I do suggest that you get something like this. If you don't get a solar generator, or if you don't get an energy, you should at least have some sort of gas-powered generator. If you can, save up, even if it's $5 a week, to go get one. I think that a lot of people could really hustle or trade something they already own for a generator. And then marfooglenews.com/energy, INERGY. Make sure to use the code Marfoogle. This is, again, a portable yet a substantial power unit. So you can actually stack up to 5 on top of each other and actually lift it up and take it and put it on your truck. Or you can actually add up to 96 batteries if you connect those stacks. It's much different than the other competitors because there are no chunky wires popping out of the sides to connect all of the batteries. It's all built in, so they just stack right on top of each other. Also, you can mod, so you can actually put 3 times the amount of panels, power going into even one battery. So instead of 4, if you get a mod for it, you can actually plug in 12. That's what's pictured now. So if you go through there, what you are doing is not only are you getting one of the best solar generators out there, and I would definitely recommend getting their folding panels, but you are also helping our channel at the same time. It is a great help that you guys go through us. It doesn't cost you any more than it would if you just went on your own. It actually costs you less, and you are helping our channel at the same time. So thank you guys for helping us. All right, and then Dex, he still has it. Have you seen him in the news at all, other than, has he done any public appearances? I didn't see it.
It's for the most part, it's been coming from the press secretary and other administration officials, like especially during the event that had gone on this week and is still going on. So, yeah, we don't know much other than he's in isolation and still remains in it. So, this is, some say originally said it's the second time. I don't know if it's literally he caught it again or if it's more that, he tested one way and then tested a different way and then tested that way again. So obviously the news is he's in his 7th day and still dealing with it.
Well, this is something where whether he has that or in isolation, that I've told you before, a lot of presidents have had different sicknesses, some very, very very sick and gravely ill, as far as things that were, deadly cancers, and they did not tell the public. So the fact that they did tell the public, some say, oh, well, they were worried it would leak out before they told them, so they wanted to give their angle. They can hide anything they want if they want to hide it. And the reason they hide sicknesses and illnesses is because, one, it makes your country look weak. If your leader is sick or, not 100%, they always put this kind of fake falsehood that the leader is 100%, he's Top Gun, he's running. That's why they show you, him biking and jogging, and even if it's like a 2-second thing where they show him jogging as fast as he can, in reality, it's probably them setting up a bunch of cameras, him running 15 feet and spritzing his face with, spray or something. And it didn't have to be just this one. It's any prez that they do this with. They don't show him eating McDonald's like Clinton anymore, but, they always try to make him look healthier than they are. As far as this goes, it means that he's also not doing public appearances. I mean, for all we know, he could be in a bunker right now. And that's not to over-exaggerate. It's just the truth. If anything really did go off, Pelosi went to Taiwan. Xi, they're somehow making an excuse to make this a way bigger deal than it was. And again, I shouldn't say that because it could have been a big deal. She could have went over there for, trading purposes, being an insider, all sorts of things. She could have done a million different things. They could have signed a military pact with them. They could have done anything in person that they didn't announce. They didn't just do a Zoom call. They went there in person for a reason. So something was going on. Some think that Nancy may be doing it on purpose, so then they have a reason to start all this off or to take Taiwan. But whatever's happening right now, our leader is now in isolation. So keep your eyes peeled. It's just saying like, hey, be awake. Right now, there's several things that throughout history they have done in other non-public disclosures. Like, they'll put the president up on a plane and get him out. The public will never find out that we were close to destruction. And that's happened before. I do also want to mention Monkeyworks and others had all sorts of videos the same time that he first came down. It was like right that day, there were all of these different military planes, and it looked like they were going to different locations. And, of course, many of you probably followed that. It looked very, very weird. The E-4 Doomsday plane was up in the air. So lots of weird stuff going on. Keep your eyes peeled and be awake. Question everything. And then we have Vladian State TV says NK offering the Kremlin 100,000 volunteers. So Kim Jong is essentially, and they haven't been able to verify this from NK itself, and I don't know how they do that. They call them up and they're like, we hate you, and then they hang up. I don't know if that's how it goes every time, but they haven't verified it from NK's side. But what they have done is they've seen it on Vladian's side. On Vlad's side of it, they're saying that they're offering 100,000 troops to go into UKR or anything else if they go past UKR. How this frames it is that Vlad is failing, and he'll run out of steam in the next couple weeks if he doesn't get some help from everybody. I've shown you the pattern, and once you've seen it, now everybody actually does comment and says, you guys are, right on this one. They show you a pattern. If UKR is doing really, really bad, then all of a sudden they're able to send $800 billion or whatever it is. If they're doing really good, they show this and they say that, they're failing, they're giving up, they're running away from the scene, they're hiding under rocks, everything else. So we see this pattern of this up and down. And usually when it's like this, it's the opposite. They're not going to give them any money right now. Dex, what do you think about as far as NK offering this kind of help?
Well, if it's true, and if that many people go over, that's a huge number of volunteers. So, I always question volunteers from other countries because they don't necessarily have skin in the game. Although in this particular instance, this one country does have a lot of alliance with Vlad's country. So therefore, the country itself has a lot of skin in the game, and obviously they control their population very sternly. So I think that they could pull off sending them and probably make them perform.
Well, and they say, are these volunteers if it's in a country like NK, which it's like, is it them volunteering or is it Kim saying, I'll give you my guys? It would probably be the latter, right? And as if he does, I mean, we're looking at a situation that if they did send 100,000 troops in, this is more looking like a world conflict than anything else. Even Vlad's side has talked about possibly going past them, and Belarus and the buddies that he's hanging out with in person, they're essentially hinting towards taking places like Moldova or other places after they're done with UKR. The news on this is very hit or miss because we don't know what is actually true. A lot of the medias in the very beginning of this conflict, they were cut off here, they were cut off there, or they wouldn't allow this, or they, said, fake news would be charged in Vlad's country. Here, they cut off RT and all this other stuff. I just tried to share a simple video, and one of the platforms said, it gave me 3 warnings. It said, this is Vladian State TV. This is controlled by their government. Are you sure you want to do this? The second time it goes, are you absolutely sure? I've never seen anything like that in my life. I've seen where they give you a warning like who made the video, but never a third basically saying, are you sure you want to do this? That's just weird. All right, and then thank you. Thank you for everybody that popped in. Steel Hauling DC, aka Flatbed. Thank you so much, and says 5 years have flown by since I found you. Glad the show is still going strong. Hello, Foogle fam. Stay safe. Thank you, Steel Hauling DC, and I appreciate that. Thank you so much for the generous support of our show. Thank you for supporting Independent. Bound by Mountains. Absolute power corrupts absolutely. These are facts and proven throughout all of history. Thanks, Marf and Dex, all the mods, and the whole family for all you do. P.S. Rock loves Nikki forever and always. Rock loves Nikki forever and always. Drew O'Connor, keep up the good work. Marf and Dex, and we all here in Idaho appreciate you. Thank you. I appreciate that, Drew O'Connor, and thank you for popping in. I've seen your name a lot lately, and I really do appreciate seeing regulars. And then the Littrell Group LLC, the 9th of AV, falls on August 7th, 8th. It says 2022 under the Jewish calendar, and so does the Ashura holiday. It says if the raptire was, the raptire, you can say rapture. If the rapture was ever to happen, August 7th to 8th, I have all of this backed up. But if Jesus gave all of the Abrahamic faith second chance in trib, and I'm guessing there's a second part to that. I never like putting dates, and I always go back to the fact that no man, woman, or child will ever know the day of the event, right? If it does happen and when it does happen. It says, Leslie Tall Chief, thank you so much for the super sticker, and I appreciate your support there. And Littrell Group LLC, thank you again. Thank you guys for your support. Ned, we love and appreciate Marfoogle News. Thank you. And Two Old People on a Couch says, we missed you. Hey, thank you. And I missed you guys too. I missed all of the Foogle fam. I was able to do a lot of short videos, which actually we got so much feedback about doing more of those. So we will try to do some shorter videos on this channel as well. People really, really like that it does not use up 2 hours of their time. I understand that your time is valuable. So I'll stop talking now. Sickly Putin uses body double with different ears, claims the UKR as Kremlin panics over his health. Okay, so that could be his hair, but it does look like he has different ears. This is the guy that they're saying. What's funny is I just saw it had about 30 different celebrities with their body doubles, including Johnny Depp, and it was some, one of those filler stories that goes on your feed. And it is pretty scary how close to a person someone can look as far as your doppelganger. Anyone's heard about that. The thing is presidents and some of the highest paid celebrities, they all have body doubles. They have stunt doubles. They have people that step in their place from time to time for security reasons or for safety or for, plain old being two places at the same time. Dex, what do you think about him having a body double? And do you think he's really a sickly, or do you think this is Ganda?
Well, it certainly could be Ganda. I mean, this is only being reported out of UKR, and they're definitely jumping on, the wagon of body doubles, which a lot of people have claimed. Like you said, there are plenty of doppelgangers out there, and everyone sort of assumes there's doubles for, or even triples for that matter, for high-ranking officials and people in the highest level of power. So it's not unbelievable to think that he doesn't have a double, just like we always thought our own administrations have doubles. So, but yeah, coming from that group, I don't know how much of this is just Ganda, as you say. But the picture kind of does look a little, different for sure.
I think it's kind of funny that you can see, I think they use the same program for their thumbnails. I could do a better job than this one. I don't know which one's the fake one and which one's the real one, but he does have pointy ears. At least we've pointed that out over the last couple of years. But who knows? Maybe gaining weight or losing weight changes that. It wouldn't change cartilage, though. But this is actually coming from them, and most of our stuff did in the very beginning, and it did veer off, and you finally had intelligence coming from Britain and the UK and everywhere else. But now it's going back to this pattern of just everything is only coming from their government. All-out conflict fears as Xi launches missiles directly over Taiwan. Smoke trails fill sky. So there are some very alarming videos out there. And Dex, did you get the links I sent you by chance? I know that
yeah, I got one of them worked, and one of them's on our website, so you can see that.
Is it the one with the sirens, or is it the one with the tanks?
I think it's the one with the tanks.
Okay. There is a video. If you look up Taiwan sirens, you'll find several videos of essentially their sirens going off with the missiles going over them. It seemed like a kind of a replay of what happened in Japan with NK. NK was launching over Japan, and they did several of these very real alerts, and it scared the crap out of people. It's eerier, though, when you're listening to it, and you know that, they must have been just absolutely terrified. If it's happening where you are, it's a little bit crazier, especially when you know it's actually a missile and it's not a test or, a scheduled thing. When they say that there's a real missile above you, that's pretty terrifying. And that's what they did. Again, a lot of people think that this whole thing is being pushed so we do get in a conflict. And it doesn't make logical sense to normal people that anyone would want a third world conflict. But I don't think those people have looked deeply into what happened before WW2 and what happened before WW1 and even other smaller conflicts. There's always an event that there's these multiple events that line up and kick it off, and it always starts with something that's almost questionable. If you look, there was Fantastic Freddy's before almost all of them. And they also can hype up something that shouldn't have been hyped up. They're basically they said it was an invasion by her going in there. Her, out of all people, they're worried. I don't know. It just seems like they made a real big point to get over there, and then all out, of course, is WW3. It says Xi flexed his military muscle as he launched unprecedented military drills in Taiwan a day after the visit by U.S. House of Representatives Speaker Nancy, amid fears of an all-out war. Soon after the scheduled start, Xi's state broadcaster CCTV said that the drills had begun and would end on Sunday. Tourists can be seen looking on as smoke trails from missiles launched by the Xi military are seen in the sky from Pingtan Island. It said that the exercises, the largest ever by Xi in the Taiwan Strait, would include live firing on the waters and in the airspace surrounding Taiwan. It also says that Xi's Eastern Theater Command said it had completed multiple firings of conventional missiles on the water off of the eastern coast of Taiwan as part of the planned exercises. The last time that Xi fired missiles into waters around Taiwan was 1996. So that is over 20 years ago, 26 years ago. It says Taiwan's defense ministry said several Dongfang missiles had been fired in waters to the northeast and southwest of the island. 2 missiles were also launched by Xi near Taiwan's Matsu Islands, which lie off the coast of Xi's country, at around 2 p.m. in the direction of the drill zones announced by Xi's country. Taiwan officials have said that the drills violate United Nations rules, invade Taiwan's territorial space, and are a direct challenge to free air and sea navigation. And all of this is being done in response to a visit of the exquisite. I don't know, that rhymed. She's not really exquisite, but it sounded better in my head. Either way, this is something I've talked about for years, and that's a good thing and a bad thing in people's eyes. People have essentially said, oh, you said this 5 years ago. I didn't say that we were going to have conflict. I said that they were preparing for it. And now it seems like we are closer than ever. Look at what happened. The money trail ended up going directly towards Xi and Vlad. If you look in just the last 5 years since I started this channel, look at all of the things that have happened. Look at where Vlad is right now. Look at what we said before that even happened, a year before. Look at what they're doing now. Look at the drills, look at the exercises, and then look at the money. The money trails that are going hot and the money trails that are going cold. A lot of things are changing right now, and they're rearranging the entire system. And people that don't see this, I'm just kind of like, how? How can you not see this? All of you are some of the smartest people in the world, and that's It should freak people out that this is such a small group of people. And by us, I mean like this whole community, not just our channel, but all of my peers. People call off-grid with off-grid desert farming. Those guys, Adrian and Paul, they call those guys fearmongers. He's passionate about what he does, but I would say I agree with the guy. And I agree that, he's just not afraid to say it. Neither my sister's friend has been just railing on Facebook and saying it's about to be, conflict, world conflict, nuclear world conflict. And he's just being straight up. I mean, he's losing friends on Facebook left and right because of what he's saying. And there's people that are, not afraid to say that. And the people that are being labeled crazy. So then that makes other people not want to say it. But I'll tell you right now, I believe a conflict is coming. One that none of us will ever foresee how bad it could get. And that is why many of us are preparing and just making sure to cover all of our bases. If you don't see it, then I would say, please watch more and go to our resources and use it. Go ahead.
And Adam, the other thing I would think about, and sort of what you were saying, is that we have covered Xi's actions over the last 6 months. We've covered them for years, but if you look at the last 6 months, it went from a handful of planes getting near the ADIZ zone to numerous planes getting to the ADIZ zone, which is the air defense zone, and then getting to the point where it was 30 or 40 planes. It was significant numbers. So it was basically encroaching, a little at a time, making it more, causing Taiwan to have to react so they can see how they're going to react. And now what we have is this latest episode, whether it was, it's obviously a effect of Nancy going there, but, whether it was by design or if it's just organically happening this way, what it's done is it's caused them to take yet another step. So now they've crossed what's called the meridian, which is the halfway point. They never acknowledged it. Xi never acknowledged the meridian, but they always sort of respected it. They never really crossed that halfway point. Well, now they're crossing it. Well, now in addition to crossing it, they're launching stuff. So they're basically inching closer to doing what they've said they're going to do all along, which is take back and reunify with Taiwan. So that shouldn't be a surprise. We should be expecting that. We've said leaders, military leaders, other analysts have said within 5 years, within 2 years, within 1 year. That's been over the last 3 or 4 years. Everyone has been saying it's bound to happen. It's going to happen soon. So to think that that's not on the radar in the not too distant future is sort of crazy when you look at the actions and you look at the steps. They're getting closer and closer and closer.
And it's really clear that there are distractions out there, but one of the main ones is this is an event that in my mind and in my opinion will happen. Modern people have not seen a world conflict, but even the generation before mine, they did. And the generation before that, they were in those conflicts. And there wasn't a thought in their brain that it was not possible. But now people think that in our civilized society that we are not going to have these, that there's always going to be a meeting at a table and it's all going to go back to normal. Unfortunately, we are human beings and we have not evolved into a type 1 civilization. We are not all knowing and all loving and undivided. We are more divided than any time in history, including before WW2. You're talking about a time where the world is in absolute turmoil to the point where they are not showing you all of the protests going on around the planet. It's everywhere. The entire world has the same media tactics. The entire world has about 5 families at the very top of it. And they are obviously doing the same thing to everybody. There's going to be money behind this. It ends up being about money every time, but we're not talking about small money. We're talking about money that makes people own their own islands and, own parts of cities and things like this. They don't care if people suffer for them to own their island. This is what people don't get. They think it's not, nobody wants that. Everybody wants to see the positive in people, and that's great. Or I think that they're doing it subconsciously. They want They want to take a ton of us, especially the low down people that they think are just the poo on the bottom of their shoe, and they want to wipe it off. So if you don't believe that, you need to start looking into this. Listen to the audio and the videos that have been caught of these elites talking about people like us. And I mean people like us, like anybody who's not a billionaire. I mean, you could be a multi-millionaire and I bet they would still be like, oh, he's just low class. These people are insane. It's something that's not just being rich. It's being part of these evil families that have passed this down. It comes from their parents and their parents before it. They're just entitled. They just think that they deserve it and that we don't. I don't think that way. I think all of us, we should be trying to evolve, undivide, and start looking up. All right, and then before we talk about the drills around the theater, I do want to remind you, if you haven't already, make sure to go over to EMP. Marfooglenews.com/EMP. You can actually get yourself an EMP Shield. This is a device that's not only been used by a ton of the Foogle fam to protect themselves. This is also the same company that was called up during the T-Man's administration to help protect the U.S. grid. In fact, they have done work for DHS, DOD, and, of course, the DEMSO team. They're actually helping protect the Texas grid. So make sure to go over to marfooglenews.com/EMP. You can get protection against all three phases of an EMP. Now, when an electromagnetic pulse happens, whatever you want to keep running, such as your car, your house, your generators, your solar system, your ham radio even, they have a system for it. They also have side devices that can protect motorcycles, that can protect boats. Any engine or motor that you want to keep going, any device you want to keep going, then you wire this into. It grounds the signal in 500 trillionths of a second before it's able to fry your device. So if you're worried about this at all, there is a solution, and then that will be one less worry on your plate. It also protects you against solar flares and CMEs. So when we get a Carrington level event, your car will still run when the others don't. So go to marfooglenews.com/EMP. Added bonuses are it also protects your house, car, and any other thing that it's monitored to, that it will actually help protect it against lightning. All right, and then Dex, let's talk about the military drills around Taiwan Theater to upend global trade.
Well, yeah, this is kind of a big deal. We have to think about what are the additional ramifications. Of course, there is the whole conflict portion of this, but now we have shipments. This is one of the busiest shipping channels or shipping areas for cargo to leave Xi's country and head to other destinations, including ours, which we get obviously a lot of our products and a lot of our manufactured supplies and even pharmaceuticals and other things from. This is going to disrupt it, at least between now and Sunday. And if they continue to do this or do it again in succession and in greater levels, then we're going to see this, because lots of shipping has had to make detours to sort of avoid these areas. And that's kind of a big deal and something that we'll probably see some sort of effect on. This type of thing always takes, when you think about cargo shipments, I want to say it's about it's normally a month. But recently it's been sort of an 8-week process from the time you expect to get something shipped out of their country over to here in the States. I think it used to be up to 12 and even longer number of weeks, and now it's down to 8 weeks. But this will add easily another week, and if not even more, because now you add in all of the extra time that they have to go by diverting around this, or just not setting sail at all because of the problems that are going on in this area.
So what we're actually seeing is this is at least going to be a temporary regular kind of halt, all on top of the supply chain issues that we already have, and of course the price increases because of fuel and gas and everything else. This will also set back, and then so we'll probably see the results of this in a month or 6 weeks, and we'll have probably more increases or delays or whatever else. So we'll be following it, but again, I just want to mention there was a lot of people that didn't watch some of those short videos. Somebody said something about what was it? It was saying something about being un-American or something, and thinking that our military wasn't good enough, and then saying that the supply chain wasn't as bad. They said that they ordered 50 things from China, and that all of them had no problem. So at the beginning of CV, people said the same thing. They were ordering things off of Amazon or eBay or some other place, and what would happen is they were ordering something that would actually be put on a plane. Planes were actually reduced by 98%. All planes were reduced at that time. And then, of course, there were cargoes that was not coming in. So people were getting their stuff from Amazon, which was through these giant companies that have been getting deals with this, and they would be getting them, and they were thinking, oh, there's no problems. I can order something and it comes in a few days. Mind you, they were paying 3 times the price than they would have the year before for that same product, because now those cargo ships that it's coming over on, they take the same amount of time, only the containers went from like $2,500 to rent the space of a whole container up to $30,000. So these companies did not take the hit as far as these Amazon things, but as far as the small retailers and everybody else, they just didn't get their stuff. If any of you know a small business owner that cannot get stuff and are basically being told all of our stuff is going to the big businesses, then let me know in the chat below, because it has not gotten better. It's actually gotten worse. And in a lot of ways, it's hurting the small businesses. But yes, you can go into Target or in Walmart. In fact, when all that cargo stopped coming, a lot of businesses went out of business. Fry's went out of business. Big, huge corporation went out of business. But people were still getting their stuff from Amazon and thinking, oh, everything is okay. They had things set up. They also had Walmart, Target, and all these others. They knew way before any of the supply chain talk, they had already chartered their boats. So they had their own container ships. They actually had to pay a whole lot extra to do that, but they knew a year in advance, because they got it all together by the time the shortage happened and all those cargoes were sitting out there. They had their own boats bringing stuff. So that means they had foresight to what was about to happen, because we declared this whole thing and they shut down ports and all that. So something right above our heads that the public does not know is happening right now, and the media explains it away. And there is a reason for the media to explain it away. They don't want people panicking. It's simple. It's the simplest answer is usually the most correct. So and again, that guy admitted that he supported China 50 times in 1 month. And I'm like, and I'm the bad guy here? You realize that if you support that 50 times in 1 month, you're actually supporting that regime 50 times. All of the big corporations are directly their arms of the country. You don't own a business. When they opened it up to capitalism in 1979, essentially, they were giving it a try. You could get very wealthy if you lived in Xi's country, but you wouldn't truly own it. You would basically be a partner and sign up to be rich, but basically be an arm of the government. That's how all of the big businesses there works. That's why Huawei, the phone company, DJI, and all these other companies, they're being questioned, including TikTok, because they are basically answering to somebody. FG says, did you get my emails? I did not. But again, I hope if your email is FG, if it's some other one, I may have, but I don't know what it would be under. Make sure to put, if you do put something in the comments, put the subject that I need to search to find it. And then Deer Creek Gun Shop. What is going on? Deer Creek, thank you so much for your support. And I will check you out. Thank you so much. Lola Cafe. Thank you, and thank you. I appreciate you. Thank you for being here for now, I want to say, at least 3 years. And Amazing Giants. Thank you for your support as well. You can always say something in that box. I love hearing from you guys. And then Travel with Dan. Nice to see you as well. And I'm hoping your travels are going well. Teresa Griffith. Thank you guys. Thanks for the warm welcome back. I appreciate everybody. And then over on D-Live, thanks everybody that just dropped in. Blue Eyed Diva, Release the Quacken, thank you for gifting out badges. R. Tate, Bug Nana, of course, R. Tate has stopped in several times, thank you. Amanda Rachel, Jacktronics, and looks like Skyhouse, thank you. And then Kelly2334, a regular over on D-Live, thank you so much. And I apologize for that. Xi conducts precision missile strikes in Taiwan Strait. Dex, you can go over this. I'm going to load something for the next article.
Absolutely. So what we are hearing, and obviously these events are set to go on through Sunday. So I imagine we're going to hear more from tonight and from tomorrow and maybe even into Sunday. But what they're saying now is they're actually using what they're calling precision missiles. And they're boasting about it, saying that, that in addition to what we heard on the first day, that everybody talked about seeing, that they're continuing to do this, and that this potentially is more days of these types of events. So in this particular case, firing off these missiles that have a very significant ability to hit specific spots, and that's what they're testing, but that's also what they're showing off, or at least flexing. So we're going to continue to follow exactly what else happens. We've heard of 22 different planes crossing the Midway. We've heard of the initial missile launches that started off that everybody saw and were reacting to, and now we're hearing about precision stuff. There's also been discussions, and we've talked about this for the past several weeks, about even NK getting ready to do their own test with nukes. Now, we actually postponed one of our was set to do a ballistic missile test, and we postponed that. We've done this before in the midst of these conflicts that are going on. We do that so as not to stir the pot or make somebody think we're actually doing something preemptively. So you can see by what's happening that a lot of the sides here are on edge. So it's real easy for one of these drills or flexes, if you want to call them that, to actually turn into something. And that's what everybody's scared of, is if something goes wrong, or somebody points it in the wrong direction, or somebody actually decides to take it too far, it will turn into an all-out conflict. And that's what we don't want to see happen. Obviously, countries like Japan have come out and said this is a serious threat to their national security. They're uneasy with it, as well as others. So we're gonna continue to monitor it. We'll probably hear more. They're scheduled to run through Sunday, but we'll see what comes of it.
And I want to point out that 5 of the missiles fired by Xi's country landed in Japan's exclusive economic zone off of Haruruma. So we were told to watch Japan, and I told you guys this just a week before Abe was taken out, who was the former prime minister. He was also the person with the vision. He was the prime minister with the big vision that they would get their military going again and to change the constitution. His party wanted to change Japan's constitution so it no longer was a defense-only constitution. Essentially, they would not get involved in any kind of conflict unless they were attacked. Now they are changing it, and they're amending their constitution to be able to jump in for essentially, to go into a conflict that may prevent future harm. So even if they knew, that Xi was taking Taiwan, and they say out loud that after Taiwan they were going to take Japan, under their current constitution, they still wouldn't be able to do it unless they absolutely were attacked. They are amending that, and they're changing all sorts of little rules that I've been looking into all the stuff they're changing. It's very clear that they are expecting something. And then with these missiles hitting off there, this could be another excuse for any of us to start popping off at each other. Now, Japan is one of our allies, and this is something that will, this is not a good thing, to say the least. So, and for it to be aimed close to them, so you got Taiwan and Japan getting, missiles. Oh, and then by the way, if people don't understand, when those planes go over the Midway, say if you are living there and you see 22 jets flying in, there's nothing on radar, there's no announcement, they're not responding to any of the radio calls. I mean, think about that. One day it's going to be the real thing. So each one of those times they're thinking this is when they're going to take us, or this is the real thing. Every time they most likely think this is the real thing. And one thing to say about their constant kind of going in and testing it and pushing their boundaries with the jets is that when they really do go in and try to take Taiwan, they might fly over and they might not respond, because it's kind of like the boy who cried wolf. They've come in so many times. They're like, it's just another one of their pushing the boundaries thing, and then boom, something hits, and they're going in for real, and they're hitting all of the targets they want to go hit. So that's my thoughts anyways. What's yours? Let me know in the comments down below. The last time there was a Taiwan crisis, Xi's low-tech military was badly outmatched by U.S. forces. Not now. This is, of course, saying that the last time tensions soared between Beijing and Washington over Taiwan, the U.S. Navy sent warships through the Taiwan Strait, and there was nothing Xi could do about it. Those days are gone. Xi's military has undergone a transformation since the mid-1990s when a crisis erupted over Taiwan's president visiting the U.S., prompting an angry reaction from Beijing. It's a very different situation now, said Michelle Flournoy. It says a former Undersecretary of Defense for Policy in the Obama administration. And it says it's much more contested and it's much more lethal environment for our forces. President Xi, of course, unlike his predecessors, now has serious military power at his disposal, including ship-killing missiles, a massive navy, and an increasingly capable air force. That new military might is changing the strategic calculus for the U.S. and Taiwan, raising the potential risks of a conflict or miscalculation, former officials and experts say. During the 95-96 crisis, which I've talked about numerous times, that's when I was talking about how last time when they were really pushing it and flying in their thing, we sent ships and then they backed off. They stopped what they were doing. We thought we could do the same thing. In fact, I covered the first time we sent all these carrier groups out there. They didn't do anything. They, in fact, circled us and even, told us to get the hell out of there. It wasn't the same as it was back in the mid-90s. It says, but the U.S. military responded with the largest show of force since the Vietnam War, sending an array of warships to the area, including two aircraft carrier groups, which, again, this is the first time the carrier Nimitz and other battleships sailed through the narrow waterway that separates Xi and Taiwan, driving home the idea of America's military dominance. It says Beijing should know the strongest military power in the Western Pacific is the United States, said the then Defense Secretary William Perry. It says now, though, the Xi People's Liberation Army, the PLA, back then was a low-tech, slow-moving force that was no match for the U.S. It says with a lackluster Navy and Air Force that could not venture too far from Xi's coastline, former and current U.S. officials said. They realized they were vulnerable, that the Americans could sail aircraft carriers right up in their face, and there was nothing they could do about it. And it says, the Xi, then taken aback by the U.S. military's high-tech display in the first Gulf conflict, went to school on the American way of war and launched a concerted effort to invest in their military and, above all, to bolster their position in the Taiwan Strait. Beijing drew a number of lessons in the 95-96 crisis, concluded it needed satellite surveillance and other intelligence to spot adversaries over the horizon. And at blue water, and it says Navy and Air Force able to sail and fly across the Western Pacific. According to David Finkelstein, director of Xi and Indo-Pacific Security Affairs at CNA. It basically says, again, it says the PLA Navy has made remarkable progress since 95. It's actually mind-staggering how quickly the PLA Navy has built itself up. And of course, in 95-96, the PLA Air Force almost never flew over water. So this is, and remember, that's what most people, even my age and over, that's what we think of. They're not the same. It's changed. That we were sending our military gear to be built there when we were all on good terms and before all this happened. When I told you guys it's starting to look like there's something going on, we got in trouble. Our U.S. military got in trouble. They were sending high-tech advanced weapons to be built there. Dumb. Dex, yeah, so they can make high-tech stuff. They can make everything that we make because we were having them make it. Go ahead.
Well, let's contrast 1990s to today. Today or this week when this went down, we only rolled one carrier group in, And we didn't even get in the Taiwan Strait. We stayed out. We stayed within distance so that we could protect the secretary when she's going, or the Speaker of the House when she was flying in. And then as the drills came forward, we backed off. We moved away. And that's totally different, because in 95, 96, they did the same drills. They started firing. They did all sorts of things like that. And we literally ran 2 carrier groups right through the strait. Like, we were like back off, you're not going to do anything. And now what we did was we literally backed off and sat back and said, okay, well, we're not going to engage. And we only sent one group in, one strike group.
Yeah, so it's definitely a different time and a different era. I still believe that the U.S. has the most insane military out there, but can we handle 2 fights at the same time if things escalate even further? That is something that they say we even may be able to do, but that doesn't mean that people won't suffer and people won't perish. So that's my opinion. What's yours? And then G says, ending cooperation with U.S. halts over climate military ties over the Pelosi visit. So they are no longer working with us on the weather. They're no longer working with us on that. It says that they're canceling or suspending dialogue with the U.S. on a range of issues, from the great change, to military relations and anti-drug efforts and retaliation. So they were in some sort of program to try to stop the fentanyl crisis, which, again, fentanyl has overtaken car crashes and heart attacks as, in fact, together, all the heart attacks and all the car crashes put together do not equal the people perishing from fentanyl. And they're going to stop that as well. So you guys have been watching this for a long time. You've been following every little step of this. For somebody who does not follow at all, they're like, oh, they don't realize how bad it's gotten, and they haven't seen the little tiny baby steps that we've gone towards this huge event that's in the works right now. I didn't even say it until this last year. I would never say that we're going to go to WW3. I would always say I think that they're heading towards it, or this or that, and I was afraid to say it. I'm not afraid to say it anymore. I believe it. And because people just give you so much crap, I don't care about it anymore. I mean, if people can't see that there are so many forces trying to get it to happen, that doesn't mean that I don't want it to I don't want it to happen. But look at what has been going on. This is history repeating itself. I mean, down to WW2 before, and oh my gosh, and we have an article here tonight that you're going to be like, what the heck? And this is what myself and Dex and others in this community have said a million times over. It's like, we've war gamed this out, and now it's happening. It's canceling all of these different ways that they're in any kind of relations with us. So this is before any sanctions or anything goes down. We're already basically not on speaking terms on several issues now. So it says the measures which come amid cratering relations among Beijing and Washington are the latest in a promised series of steps intended to punish the U.S. for allowing the visit to the island it claims as its own territory to be annexed by force if necessary. So they have said that it will take it if it's not like a Hong Kong situation, which, by the way, Hong Kong did not make something important to the U.S. So Hong Kong, they were just like, whatever. Hong Kong, again, did have an agreement, a long-term contract, but they pulled it in early. Hong Kong was supposed to slowly integrate into Xi's kind of that country. They ended up saying, like, basically overnight they changed their mind. They did all sorts of law changes and then said, hey, you're going to be, part of mainland now. And that happened relatively quick. There was a lot of protest, a lot of people arrested. Corporations lost their CEOs to jail. I mean, it was just nuts. Newspapers were deleted, just absolute craziness. And now they're cutting off ties with the U.S. I mean, what next? They're gonna burn the stuff in their embassies. Oh wait, they did that too. All right, and then before we talk about Xi convinced it needs to hit U.S. with Pearl Harbor style surprise attack. I know, right? I do want to remind everybody, if you don't have long-term survival food, we have a solution for you. Again, we think everyone should have long-term survival food. The one issue is that, of course, it's not cheap to actually do this. You can do it yourself, and we highly encourage you to follow any one of the creators in our Foogle family. But if you are, again, trying to get this done and you don't want to do the work yourself, there are companies like My Patriot Supply that have everything packaged up into freeze-dried 25-year plus shelf life foods that are set into kits that can keep you going for allotted amounts of time. Right now, we do have something new, which is a $50 discount on the 1 month supply and $150 off on the 3 month supply. So that 1 month supply has not had a discount for a long time. Of course, the prices of freeze-dried foods have been going up, and the demand has been going up and the supply has been going down. In fact, freeze-dried foods are getting harder and harder to find. People are actually resorting to spending $3-4 grand on a freeze dryer because they can't, and those are hard to get now too, because they are not able to order their favorite freeze-dried foods. But if you want to go to marfooglenews.com/prep, you're not only protecting yourself as far as having an insurance for food, you are also supporting the Foogle family at the same time. marfooglenews.com/prep. They also have other things like the Alexa Pure Pro. That is a water-fed gravity filtration system that essentially takes out 99.999% of almost everything: lead, fluoride, chlorine, bacteria, pesticides, and pharmaceuticals, because not many people trust their water anymore. Thank you again. If you guys do go over there, you're getting a discount. You're helping our channel. And, of course, you're getting something of substance that you can keep for a very long time. Something that in 5 years, the prices of these, they may go up 3, 4, 5 times, and you'll still have 20 years left on your shelf. So think about that. A lot of people are looking at it as an investment now because it may be cheaper than the food in your grocery market in just a couple years. Not to mention, freeze-dried foods keep almost all of their flavor. It's really, really an amazing system, so make sure to go check it out. And like we have said, we've talked about this exact thing before. Xi convinced it needs to hit U.S. with a Pearl Harbor-style surprise attack to win conflict over Taiwan, expert warrants. Dex, you hit this, and I'll load up the next one.
Well, yeah, this is coming from a fellow at Stanford University that was a former Xi analyst at the Pentagon. And they basically obviously been studying this for a long time. And they're explaining how these blockades and the types of actions we see right now are going to become more commonplace and continue to grow as this threat of a conflict, increases. But the one thing they bring about is they really believe that there has to be some sort of surprise event, similar to what we saw with Pearl Harbor, to actually, I guess you could say, as a distraction or as, a 1-2 kind of punch, so to speak, as the kickoff to the actual taking of Taiwan. So this is just coming from one particular analyst, but it's not just, it's not just any random person. This person actually spent a lot of time studying this and has credentials and a background in this, in studying this particular country and doing it for both the military and the government, as well as other places. So, it is a gamble, I guess you could say, when they talk about how this might go over and who it would be, and would this actually work? But it's definitely something that they feel is in the wheelhouse of Xi. If he's going, to move forward, or as he moves forward with this reunification strategy, even with quote unquote invasion, as he said, or forcefulness, as he said, how will it unfold? We've talked about many different scenarios from others where it's just, hey, start to take the first of the 2 small islands that are closest to land, and once you've sort of plant the flag there, you just continue to roll forward. And then it becomes a different type of strategy. But this one really spells out this notion of, hey, there's going to be some sort of surprise event that will, foreshadow the actual invasion happening.
And this is coming out. Remember weeks ago when I talked about the similarities between Xi and Japan, Japan being our enemy at one point. Japan drilled in areas that looked just like the Pearl Harbor area. In fact, they trained their small small group of pilots, small comparatively, right? Japan knew they were going up against a bigger force. The Japanese, amazingly brave fighters in that conflict. Most vets from back then, they have a lot of respect for each other because of all of the stuff that they went through. And those guys, I mean, they literally took their own lives for the cause, right? At the same time, they did that cowardly surprise attack, as some people see it. And they took the lives of many of ours. Well, they trained in very similar ways. They trained over and flying, and they had no idea at the time. They weren't told anything. They were flying and practicing in an area that looked exactly like Pearl Harbor. And they were training on things like it. They also, days before, or I want to say a day or 2 days before the actual attack, they had their embassy burn all of their documents, and essentially we've seen the same thing out of them. And now they're saying that, the thing that makes most sense would be this kind of attack. Well, guess what? Xi is drilling in places that look like San Francisco Bay, that look like our, in fact, even in our Puget Sound. They're actually flying over places that look like Seattle, that look like California. They're also testing port busting torpedoes that will take out whole ports. Not to mention, they have a whole plethora of data as far as everybody is warning you about DNA testing. Well, apparently Xi has been gathering that too. So there's a lot of ways that they could hit us, including drones. They have these mass fleets of drones that could go in and hit specific targets. I mean, this, not trying to scare you, but the drills are looking like the future of the conflict, right? They're practicing for something they may do someday. That's why people on the West Coast should be aware of what's going on. I bet you, even if they flew right over, people would go, oh, it's probably the Blue Angels, or it's summer, it's this. Not knowing that, they should be looking at the color on the back of the plane. People will not expect this until, after it's happened. It's something that is ingrained in all of us, that they'll hear it on the news first before it starts happening. If they did, if you do believe that the U.S. is so much better than Xi, then that means that that would be more likely for them to do a surprise, a sucker punch type thing. Because if they're fighting a bigger force, I mean, nobody thought Japan would have attacked us. They were, at the time, were like, they're nothing compared to us. But they didn't take their resolve into factor. You never underestimate your enemy. And then second fentanyl-laced dollar bill found in Orange Beach, 2 officers exposed. It says for the second time this summer in Orange Beach, fentanyl has been discovered inside a folded $1 bill that had been dropped on the ground. This time it happened at the police department. A security camera outside the Orange Beach Police Department captures a woman identified as Sarah Daly from Foley leaving Sunday morning when something falls to the ground. She drops a wrapped up dollar bill about so big. And it says that the officer actually found it and said it looked like origami with the dollar bill right there in the grass in front of the police department. The dollar bill lay in the grass for about 10 hours before an officer spotted it. When he opened it up and realized that there was a powder inside, he threw it down. It says we called for medics to get checked out just as a precautionary measure. He was fine. His supervisor came on the scene, checked the dollar bill, tested it. It tested positive for fentanyl, and he was also checked by medics. It says Daly, 26, is now in the Baldwin County Jail charged with possession of controlled substance and reckless endangerment. Fentanyl is highly potent, man-made opiate. Only a trace of the fine powder can take your life. Wrapping it in paper money is a new way to conceal it, according to Johnson. It says, quote, if we were dealing with somebody and the drop part of a dollar bill on the ground, possibly crumpled up in their pocket, we may not think anything of it, or at least we wouldn't have 6 weeks ago. Now we look at it as a potential narcotics paraphernalia as well. Now that it has happened at least twice in Orange Beach, the warning couldn't be stronger. If you find some folded up money on the ground, leave it alone. Similar cases have been reported in Destin, at least 2 cities in Tennessee. So people have been folding up, drugs in money for a very long time. But basically what they're saying is that the powder is so potent and so dangerous, you accidentally touch it and touch your mouth or something, you could literally perish. Dex, I don't think they're actually exaggerating, because this stuff is really, really dangerous and really powerful.
Absolutely. I've seen some of the what's like body cam shows and things like that on television where, officers have been just going through whatever they had to pick up off of the person or the car, and they get sick, from what, and they don't, in one case I saw, they could never identify exactly what it was, but just it getting airborne, right? Just these substances getting airborne and them breathing it and not knowing that it's airborne because they just pick something up is enough to, in the one case I watched, this officer was pretty much unconscious and they had to bring him to the hospital and revive him. So yeah, this is pretty deadly. And the fact that this is starting to become, I don't know if it's a trend, but it's been reported numerous times. I mean, I've seen this before, and then, seeing it again, it's like, okay, well, maybe we should at least, let people know, like, this is something that's going on. A lot of people who may not, understand these types of things don't, pay much attention to it. But now, you're walking along in the grocery store and you see a bill laying on the ground and you pick it up thinking it's your lucky day, and it might not. It might be your last day. So, just take heed and be cautious about this. And as we, think about when we grab things that we don't really know where they're coming from.
Well, here's another thought. If somebody had enough of that stuff and now it's prevalent, it's actually replaced other things that we used to, the stuff that Kurt Cobain would have taken, right? That's basically gone because, and I think it's partly because we got out of Afghanistan, and that's where most of it was coming from, and now there's no, real ties coming in and out and in and out. And now that stuff is coming from G. And that's why we were working with them or something. There was departments, trying to, I think that G, basically, they have these factories that were making it, and every once in a while I'd be like, hey, Friday, we're gonna crack down on you, and then we're gonna replace your boss, and then keep going. That's just my personal opinion, but now nothing comes from there, and everything comes from there. And this stuff is way more deadly. Think about this. If the fentanyl was in a dust and put into like an air supply or something, or in an AC unit or something, and have that blow through any kind of big building, think about that. Even if you just breathed in a big whiff out of the, vent system, and you're done. A medic or something, they would probably have 1 or 2 Narcan shots or something. They're not going to have, 100 or 200. That could be some serious, that could be something very bad in the future. They're saying that if enough of it's dust and you blew it on somebody, they could perish right there. Go ahead.
Yeah, exactly, Adam. And B Crouch in comments just made a good point. Is they're going to use this to make a push for digital money. Be careful with the idea of switching to digital. So that is another interesting observation, right? Like they're talking, this kind of message is coming out about, don't grab the dollar bill on the ground. Like start to think of them as bad things. And so, yeah.
Be afraid to use cash. Oh, now cash is laced with stuff. Man, good catch. That is actually a really great point. So, and then of course the self-checkout and everything else. Why, self-checkouts, I remember they popped up overnight and it was kind of a temporary thing, but now it's a permanent thing. Now Walmarts are made of like 2 regular people checking, and it's closed 99% of the time, and then 100 self-checkout. It's just, we're over the thing, so why can't we go, back to regular checkouts? Makes you think. And then, of course, we still have a change shortage. Can they just not make more change? I guess I'm ignorant to what it takes to make more change. Don't understand.
Doesn't it cost more than the actual change? Like it costs more than a penny to make a penny and more than a nickel to make a nickel?
Yeah, but I guess, if we send off $800 billion to a different country, maybe we could just take a little small percentage of that and put into making our own money. End the shortage overnight. Don't know. I wonder how much it really does cost to make, change. And or fix the shortage. If they had a coin shortage, seems like you could just fix that. But they don't want to, because they don't want you using change. They don't want you using dollar bills, because those are not tracked. You receive it. You can receive it without anything on paper, and then you can give it away without anything on paper. Therefore, that transaction doesn't exist, and it cannot be taxed. All right, and then thank you, everybody, for popping in. K-Rec, thank you so much for your support. And woot woot, hey, what's going on, K-Rec? Thank you. Tina Smith from Canada says, "Arg! What does your T-shirt say? It's driving me crazy." It is backwards. And it's Nairo Jordanam. I think it says Nairo Jordanam. It's a show. Nobody watches it. It's like the fake version of Mandalorian, or my shirt's backwards. It's actually my shirt's backwards. It's Mandalorian. And then Paul Susan Lee. Hey, thank you so much for support. Thank you so much, Paul. And again, Paul Susan Lee. Thank you so much. And then FG, Deer Creek Gun Shop, Lola Cafe, thank you. And if you are truly a gun shop, hopefully people are going over and supporting. I'm sure you have no lack of business right now, though. People are probably lined up at the door. All right. And then, Dex, before you go over to the web only, I do want to remind people you can go over and get yourself an off-grid bag. If you don't want to be tracked or traced, or you want to protect your actual devices from, as far as get a Faraday bag and protect them from electro anything, then you can go over to Off-Grid. You can not only get backpacks, you can get duffel bags. The backpack's cool because it has a slot for your laptop, your tablet, your key fob, your phone. Basically, any device that you have will most likely fit in here, and you can also fit in about 2 days worth of stuff if you want this to be your go bag. That is, again, marfooglenews.com/offgrid. If you haven't seen these, they are, again, one of the highest quality Faraday inclusive bags out there. And they also protect you from getting tracked, traced, and accessed and hacked. That's marfooglenews.com/offgrid. Make sure to use the code Marfoogle. Dex, we have a crazy amount of stuff in the web only, and I will actually be adding more after the show. In fact, there's a couple things. I might actually have another thing, too, as far as how much you need to buy a house. I thought that was insane. To buy a house here, you have to make $130,000 a year just to be on the baseline to even buy a house. That in Boston, Massachusetts, it's like $140,000. New York, it's $135,000. There's only a few states that were under $100,000 now, to where you could actually buy a house and live comfortably. That's pretty insane, if you ask me. But go ahead, Dex.
Yeah, that is insane. Everybody's probably feeling it in their own hometowns with housing prices and rent prices just going through the roof. Hopefully it'll stabilize. Looks like that's what's about to happen. But look, the web-only content, or the overflow content as we really refer to it, it's everything else we couldn't get to, and there's a lot of it. So go to marfooglenews.com, click on the thumbnail for the show, scroll down to that yellow bar, or if you're on YouTube, it's really simple. Just open the description and click on show notes. Apple, Snickers, they're both sort of bending the knee to Xi over Taiwan. There's a lot happening there. A recent race was just won in Arizona. You can find out about that. Lightning strikes at the White House, and it unfortunately perished 2 people and hurt 2 others. Kind of an interesting thing to think of happening at that place. And some other tactics that have gone on, like a new way of getting out of a traffic stop. And then some updates on AJ. I don't know. I'm sure a lot of people have heard what's going on in the lawsuit, and there was updates, and inclusive of his response that came out. So that and a whole lot more is right there. It's at marfooglenews.com. Just click on the thumbnail for today's show and scroll down to that overflow. And again, if you're on YouTube, open the description. It's so simple. Just click on show notes. You can see it right now while you're watching the show.
By the way, one of the cool things, the U.S. Army is developing a tactical bra for its female soldiers. Sounds pretty cool. I mean, I don't know if it's anything like the old Bond films where But, I mean, I guess most of us are just interested to see where it's going. It could go one of two ways. Sorry.
I wanted to let you take that one.
All right. Well, you guys, thank you so much for the first show back, and everybody came strong today. So thank you so much, everybody, for popping in. Thank you over on DLive, everybody. Kelly2334, I Love You Jesus Forever. We've got Release of Quack and Blue Eyed, Jordan B. Bear. Thank you, everybody. Love you guys, and we will see you very, very soon. Make sure to head over to Marfoogle News after the shoutro ends. Remember, you can also join us on Marfoogle Jams, our third channel. If you do like my silly outro music, all the music is just made on the spot. It's not supposed to be good, but it is in recognition of you guys. You guys are what's most important here. Dex, thank you for your service today.
Much love. Great job, brother.
It is now time for the shoutro. Join us over on Marfoogle News. I'm going to update you on what comments we got as far as people being deployed in mass before they were basically out of nowhere. And this is over the last couple days. That will be over on Marfoogle News. I'm going to do a cell phone video. You guys make sure to go over there in the next 20, 30 minutes. All right, thank you, Dex. Love you guys. Be safe, be prepared, and Marf out. It is now time for the shoutro. It's not an outro. It's not a shout-out. It's a shoutro. Alcoholic, I guac-a-walkaholic, everybody gonna call it. Who the vibe, wrong buzz, and a good, big, good night. Jam, everybody have a good night. I'm now this long set in the air and falling sure. Everybody got a big old smile, and nobody's smiling for everybody gonna go, 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 go. Bring on the light. love you. I'm gonna love you, love you, love you, love, 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 love. Bring on the love, bring on the hate. I'm gonna bring love always. Yeah, the truth is I'm in a pinpoint high. Joyful diggy in the peace no die. 90,007 now. Alaska 907 now. Terribly late. Terribly late. No dumb at the sun and it's you hard.